Hello, welcome to the first session of the Mindfulness Leadership online course. This session is entitled The Taster. The sessions are usually 45 minutes long, but this one will probably be a touch longer because we've got a lot of stuff to go through today. First things first, let's make sure that you've got your headphones sorted out. This sort of thing is much easier to do if you're somewhat isolated from your surroundings, and headphones is a very good way to do that. If you have a particularly noisy office, I recommend the noise-cancelling headphones. They're obviously even more useful for isolating you from your environment. The second thing I should say, perhaps it actually would have been the first thing, is to turn off your mobile phones. Get your mobile switched off, so you won't be disturbed for the next 45 minutes. It's such a pleasant thing to do in our modern lives to actually turn the mobiles off. So enjoy and switch off, go off the network. If you have a mobile that wakes itself up when you have a reminder, perhaps you've been reminded to buy Mum a birthday present on the weekend, for example, which is something I often do, 7 days beforehand, then get your phone so it can't do that either, so it can't remind you of something that's going to happen in a few days' time. The other thing is to get your notepads out. We're going to do quite a bit of writing here and there, and you're slowly going to build up a document. I should say at this point we're not sponsored by Muji, and I don't have shares in Muji, but this particular notepad we found very useful because it's just about the right size, and also has the sort of the blank sheet, so you can actually doodle as well as write on it. So get your notepad out and get yourselves ready to do some writing. Also, they have pretty good pens that go with that too. Also, just like to see how familiar you are with this system. Can anyone just put their hands up maybe and show me if you're able to put your hand up? Let's see. I can see a few people. Yeah, oh, there we go. Yes, a couple of attendees. They put their hands up there. That's good. That's very good. So that's good. So in this session, there won't be that much interaction because we've got so much to get through, but in future sessions, there will be a bit more chance to actually do some interacting, and I will occasionally need to take a straw poll and see who's experienced some particular thing after a practice. The other thing I'd like to say is please feel free to ask questions during the transmission. For me, I probably won't be able to answer questions during the course of the transmission, but I will, after the transmission, answer all the questions. And if they're personal, I'll answer them personally to you. If they're not personal, then I will share them with the group, so the group can get a learning from the question. Obviously, I won't share names anyway when I'm sharing the questions with the group. Right, so I think we should just get started, really. What I'd like you to do is to really think about what you want to get from this course. And during the course of this seminar, or perhaps today at some point, just try and send me either by email or a question during this transmission, what you want to get out of it, what you want to get out of the 6 weeks. And the other thing is, I'd like you to tell me what you think mindfulness is. And if you don't know what mindfulness is, I'd like you to tell me that too. The reason for this is that I believe mindfulness becomes quite personal for some people. And some of you will already be practitioners to some extent. And for me to have a wide range of definitions of what mindfulness is incredibly useful. It's useful for everybody, in fact. So that will be good too. Two things, any questions, and also what you're going to get out of the course. That's three things, in fact. And what you think mindfulness is, what it is to you, what it means to you, and if it means nothing, you don't know what it means. So that's great. So great, we get that started off on the right foot. I'd like you to pick up your pads, and I'd like you to write a title for the document that means something to you right now. Now, you can call it Mindfulness Leadership Online course. You can call it Emotional Intelligence course. You can call it a journey, the inner game. It doesn't really matter what you want to call it. Give it some sort of title that means something to you. Now, underneath this title, when you're finished writing that, I'll give you some time to do that. Once you've written a title, I want you to write these 7 words. And these 7 words are very important. These 7 words reflect on each other, and these 7 words are related to mindfulness. These 7 words help you interpret, perhaps, your thoughts, your memories, your feelings, your emotions. And they're a very good guide, they're a very good core set of principles to use. So we're going to write them down. We're going to write them down one by one. So by now you've probably written a title. If you haven't written a title and you've just got a question mark there, that's fine, by the way. So just do a question mark. First word I want you to write down is non-judgmental. Non-judgmental. Without judgment. Non-judgmental. The second word I'd like you to write down is non-striving. I'm actually looking at my notes here because I've got 7, and sometimes I miss one out because it hasn't come to me, and I usually pick it up later, but this time I've actually got my notes in front of me, so I'm going to make sure you have all 7 right now. Sometimes it's useful to let the words come up on their own. So you should have non-judgmental and non-striving written underneath each other. The next one is patience. Now these aren't in any particular order, but the next word is patience. All these words, they relate to each other. All these words are useful when it comes to practicing mindfulness and thinking about things in a mindful way. So patience. The next one is trust. So you now have 4 words: non-judgment, non-striving, patience, and trust. And while we're here about trust, I'm going to say a little bit about it. One of the greatest uses, one of the greatest applications, one of the greatest, or the greatest efficacy, I should say, in mindfulness comes from practicing every day. Daily practice allows you to know what your ability to practice mindfulness is, what your ability to practice meditation is on an average day. Now, the reason that's important, the reason you will get that trust in your ability after a few days of practice, is because just as with yoga you wake up with a different body every morning, with mindfulness you wake up with a different head every morning. So if you feel as though perhaps one day your head's been really busy and you've been unable to practice, you're actually quite wrong. It is a myth that meditation is a constant, singular focus. Even the greatest meditators in the world get distracted and they bring their thoughts back to the object of their meditation. This is the key. This is what you will learn how to do. So if you feel as though your mind's been very busy one day, actually you've had a success. You've witnessed your mind being busy and you've attempted to bring it back to your point of focus. You've had enough trust in your ability to practice, and you know simply that on that day your mind is busy, busier than usual, busier than average. Okay, so that's trust. I'm sorry to take a little bit of a tangent away from doing our list there, but trust is a key word, and I really wanted to define it right up front, especially with regard to meditation and practice. The next word I want you to write underneath trust is actually 2 words. It's the beginner's mind, or 3 words, the beginner's mind, or just beginner's mind. With mindfulness, very often you'll be attempting to look at things for the first time, like you're seeing them again for the first time. And that's quite crucial. That's quite a important piece of the puzzle, the child's mind, if you like. The next word you write underneath that is letting go. Again, that's 2 words, letting go. So you've now got, you see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words, or 6 lines with words on them, and the 6th line should say letting go. And lastly, I want you to write down 2 words, and I want you to separate them with a backslash. Awareness, backslash, attention. Okay, so awareness, backslash, attention. So now you've got, there's 7 lines, and these words are very important for your interpretation and understanding of mindfulness, and they're a very good place to go back to should you need any pointers, any signposts. Okay? So now I'm going to do 2 more things with regard to the writing, and then you can perhaps put the pads down for a bit while I give you a little bit of history and a little bit of science. I'm going to give you 2 keywords. Now, the reason I do this is because For me, it's very important that you do your own research. I don't simply want you to take everything from me, and I want to give you the source of where all this has come from. And I want to give it to you right up front so you can do your own Googling and searching and find out your own answers. The first word is a name of a chap called Jon Kabat-Zinn. That's John without an H, and that's Jon, and Kabat-Zinn is a double-barreled last name. That's Kabat-Zinn, Jon Kabat-Zinn. That's Jon Kabat-Zinn. Zinn with two N's, John without an H. The next word is UMass. UMass is a shortened version of the University of Massachusetts, UMass. If you Google mindfulness, Jon Kabat-Zinn, UMass, you'll find a whole wealth of material. And I want you to feel free to do that. So let's use that to kick us into a bit of a science lesson. In 1979, Jon Kabat-Zinn went to the University of Massachusetts, and he said, I want us to try this thing called integrative medicine. I want the patients to do the drugs, do the surgery, do the rehab, and to meditate. And over the next 35, nearly 40 years now, 28,000 patients and hundreds of clinicians, physicians, researchers, psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, all manner of white coats, literally proved beyond all reasonable doubt that this approach to medicine halved recovery times and doubled recovery rates, which is a significant improvement. If you think about it, it's kind of obvious, really. I mean, dealing with the body, you may as well deal with the mind as well. So that's a little bit about the history. The reason we're all talking about mindfulness in the West now is because we tend to have to be hit over the head with a textbook to actually be able to accept something. And that's, of course, what's happened over the last 35 years. We've literally been overwhelmed by research into mindfulness in practice in the medical profession. It didn't stop at the University of Massachusetts. It went to UCLA, it went to King's in London, it went to Germany and Denmark, and in fact all over the Western world. And so now we have an awfully high quantity of peer-reviewed, what they call peer-reviewed documents to back up all this scientific research. So that gives you a little bit of the history, and it should give you enough information to do a little bit of your own research. You can always ask CalmWorks for scientific documentation. We can happily supply you with scientific documentation to allow you to do some further reading, so there's no worries there. And lastly, before we get started, because my belief really is that the only way you can really understand this is to actually practice, so we're actually going to do 3 practices today. But let's do a bit of science first. I'm going to switch to a keynote presentation here and hopefully show you a little bit of, not too much, I think enough, not just enough science. So what I'm going to do, for simplicity's sake, is divide the brain up into 3 parts. The first part is often called the reptilian brain, and that's also known as the basal ganglia. That part of the brain sits right on top of the spinal column, and it deals with your body temperature, your heart rate, and your breathing. But the most significant aspect of it for us today is that it's very rapid. It reacts very, very quickly. It's plugged right into your spinal column, so it reacts extremely quickly. The next piece of the brain is called the limbic system, the limbic brain, and it's also known as the Mammalian cortex. This piece of the brain is to do with the memories of what you like and what you don't like. I always just refer to it as, can I eat it? Can I have sex with it? Will it kill me? It's sort of very interesting but basic stuff. And it also operates very rapidly. So that's another piece of the brain that operates very quickly. The third and last piece of the brain in this very simplified model is the piece that you think of when you think of a picture of the brain, which is known as the Mammalian cortex, or the Neocortex for short. Now this piece is really fascinating, and I'm not saying that sex and all the rest of that eating wasn't great, because it's all great, but this is the piece that's perhaps more interesting to us. And I'll go into this in a bit more depth. The interesting part of this piece for us today is that this piece uses 85% of the brain's energy, but actually it operates much more slowly than the rest of us, the rest of our brains. Everyone in this webinar today has sent an email and regretted it. And what we're trying to do with mindfulness is, when we come across a challenge in our lives, we're trying to bring our contemplative side, our more cerebral, if you like, our more neocortex side to a challenge, and to allow perhaps the time for our full engagement of our brain before we'd have a simple knee-jerk reaction to something. So that's a very short, sort of very simplistic neuroscience lesson. Now I'm going to show you some proof about what happens to your brain when you meditate. I'm going to show you 3 pictures plus just a bonus picture that I picked up of the brain in an fMRI scan. Now, an fMRI scan measures changes in blood flow. And so what I'm going to do is show you these pictures. I'm just going to explain the first picture because I think it's somewhat confusing. On the right-hand side, you can see a bar chart there, and you've got 2 people represented. You've got the novice and the mindfulness trainee, the mindfulness participant, if you like. The novice is not represented in the picture. That's a key point. Blue in an fMRI scan shows a reduction in blood flow, and red shows an increase in blood flow. The piece of the brain we're currently looking at, the dorsal medial prefrontal cortex and the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, this piece of the brain is responsible for our internal narrative. In the world of mindfulness, this is sometimes referred to as our monkey mind. This is a sort of constant babble that drags us along all day. A lot of what mindfulness does is it quietens down this monkey mind. It quietens it down and enables us to actually engage the rest of our brains. So you can see from this picture, from this representation, that the meditator has experienced a reduced blood flow to those pieces of the brain that are responsible for the monkey mind, for this sort of constant babble that drags us along all day. The second picture I thought was very useful for today, actually. This is the lateral prefrontal cortex. This is the high-use memory function. This is the, if you like, the random access memory of the human brain, the RAM, the rapidly engaged and accessed memory that you have, the memory that you use right here, right now. And you can see that the meditator there has experienced an increase in blood flow to that part of the brain. So that's the lateral prefrontal cortex. Moving on, this area is of particular interest for our second module, resilience. This is the insula. This area of the brain is said to control our emotional homeostasis, our ability to remain emotionally regulated. As you can see again, the meditator has experienced an increase in blood flow to this part of the brain. And lastly, and just simply as a bonus, I included a picture of the secondary somatosensory cortex. The secondary somatosensory cortex is the piece of the brain which is to do with your semantic processing. It's kind of what shall I say, how shall I respond? And as you can see again, after meditating, that part of the brain has seen an increase in blood flow, a thickening, in fact, is what they sometimes call it. Okay, so I think that's probably enough science for one day. Back to the nub of it, really, and do some practice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down a challenge for you. I'm going to ask you to see if you can focus on your breathing for 60 seconds. Seems fairly straightforward. I'm going to give you a bit of help. This is a challenge that's easier to do the less hard you try to do it. Okay? That's the key point. The other thing is that during the course of the 60 seconds that you're focusing on your breathing, you might get distracted. You might get distracted by a thought or a memory or a feeling or a pain in the body or a pain outside the body or a sound in the room or the urge to giggle or a sound outside the room. The trick is, don't fight it. Allow yourself to be distracted long enough for you to make a mental note of what you're being distracted by. And then once you've made a mental note of what you're being distracted by, bring your whole cognitive awareness, all of your attention back to your breathing. Does that make sense? Let's try, okay? Now, I'm going to get you into a position to meditate. It's actually very, very straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to use your physiology, you're going to use your physical being to help you focus. It's very, very useful, and particularly because despite what we may think when we look in the mirror in the morning, we're all of us, every single one of us, are walking around in a bona fide miracle of life. And there's absolutely no doubt about that. Any way you cut it, you will see a miracle of life. This mechanism that you're inhabiting, this vehicle that you're running around in all day long is a bona fide miracle of life. So what I'd like you to do is to get your hands on your thighs so you can feel that point of contact. You can feel your palms on your thighs. And also put your feet flat on the floor as well so you can feel those points of contact. Perhaps even wiggle your toes inside your shoes so you can actually feel that sensation. Also note your bum on the seat, how that contact feels with your bum on the seat there. And you can meditate with your eyes open, but it's much, much easier to do with your eyes closed. So let your eyes close down and really allow that to bring you into focus, really allow that to just bring your focus internal a little bit. And we very often, with meditation, breathe through our nose. There's a nerve in your nose that's connected directly to your heart. So actually breathing in through your nose is the easiest way to become instantly physiologically aware of your breathing. So just breathe in through your nose and really picture in your mind's eye the breath coming into the boundaries of your body and the breath exiting the boundaries of your body. And really allow your breathing to do its thing. Really allow your breathing to take control. You'll be amazed in this seated position how little breath you actually need to maintain your existence. So let your breath lengthen and let your breath deepen and let your breath slow. And just enjoy that sensation as you come to a sort of calm physical and mental state. And what I'm going to do is just time 60 seconds and see if you can allow all of your attention and all of your awareness to come to your breathing. And if you get distracted, just like I said, allow yourself to be distracted just long enough to note what you're being distracted by. And then once you've noted what you're being distracted by, just bring all of your awareness, all of your attention back to your breathing. So here we go. I'm going to do it with you. 60 seconds. See if you can just focus all of your attention and all of your awareness on your breath. Here we go. Okay, that's great. So just allow yourself to come back to clock time. You can wiggle your fingers, maybe wiggle your toes. You can come back quick. You can come back slow. There's no rush here. And so I don't really have time for a show of hands, but there's probably three kinds of people now. There are those who found that completely impossible. Their mind was really busy with thoughts and found it really difficult to focus on their breathing. And there are those who actually found it rather simple. To just simply focus their attention on their breath. And then there are those who are in between, who got distracted and then were able to bring their focus back to their breathing. Whichever group you belong to, you've all witnessed this concept of your thoughts being somewhat abstract from yourself. And the reason this is important is because when someone says, I'm angry, or when someone says, I'm stressed, a more accurate description of what they're going through is that they're having a thought that's full of anger, and they're having a thought that's full of a stress. And The reason that's important is because really, ultimately, there's only one person on the planet who can allow you to become stressed. And there's only one person on the planet who can actually allow you to become angry. And that may seem like a long way away at this point, but the more you practice mindfulness, the more you'll see that that is an option, or that has become an option for you. Okay, so because we've got quite a lot to do, I'm going to press straight into the second practice. I want to introduce the practice a little bit longer this time, just to say that it's a scenario. It's a scenario that we're all quite familiar with. What I'd like you to do is to just try and work with it. Try and allow the scenario to accomplish what it's trying to do, which is simply to kind of clear out your thoughts a little bit and allow you to get some space. So let's just try it. Just go straight into it. So what I'd like you to do again is to get into that position you get into when you meditate. You have your hands flat on your thighs and your feet flat on the floor. And if you've got a reasonably good back, bring your back off the back of the seat there so you don't actually keel over and fall asleep. See, mindfulness is an extremely good way to go to sleep. So if you're tired, you might find yourself nodding off a little bit. If your back's a little painful, then by all means put it into the back of the chair so you can give yourself some support. And once again, close your eyes down. Allow yourself to come inside into your body mechanism and sort of allow this sort of internal focus to happen. And again, allow yourself to breathe in through your nose and allow your breathing to take over. Allow your breathing to slow and to deepen and to lengthen. And perhaps also check in with your points of contact again, the feet on the floor, your bum on the seat, your hands on your thighs. Perhaps check in with the way your arms are just sort of dangling like they do from your side. Check in with the way your head kind of just stands up like it does. Maybe even the sensation of the air moving around your body. Just keep your attention and your awareness sort of into your physiology. And when you feel comfortable, when you feel relaxed, I want you to picture in your mind's eye your favorite cinema. And if you've suddenly got 100 different cinemas racing through your head, just pick the first one, just for speed, so we can get started. And I'd like you to run the scenario that you usually run when you go to the movies. I'd like you to go inside and buy a ticket. I'd like you to go to the concession stand and grab all the things you usually grab when you go to the concession stand. Your popcorn, your hot dogs, your drinks, sweets, whatever it is that you usually buy. And when you're finished at the concession stand, I'd like you to walk to the auditorium, and just as you hand your ticket to the usher, I want you to notice something slightly different. When you walk into the auditorium, just notice that it's actually an auditorium that's inside your head. And as you walk in, go and find your favorite spot, find your favorite seat, and make yourself comfortable. Do all the things you usually do when you sit in your seat in the cinema. Take off your coat, maybe kick off your shoes, get your food out, and just make yourself generally comfortable. Also, take a moment just to acknowledge the distance between you and the screen. And when you're ready, when you feel comfortable and settled and relaxed, allow your attention to be distracted by the screen flickering on. And this time, as opposed to the first exercise, allow all your thoughts to come. Allow them to exist long enough to note what they are, and then once you've noted what they are, let them go, and then let the next thought come. Basically, just let each thought come, exist, be labelled, and let go, one at a time. And I'm going to time another 60 seconds, and I'm going to do it with you. We'll just sit here having our thoughts one by one in the cinema inside. So here we go, 60 seconds, here we go. Now, before we come back, I want to try something a little extra. Just as one thought ends, and just before another thought begins, you should notice a little gap in between each thought. What I'd like you to do is to allow your thoughts to slow down to the extent that that gap grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And see if you can allow your thoughts to slow down to the extent that that gap becomes the only thing that you're looking at. You're simply looking at a blank screen in the cinema. So we'll do another 60-second pause. I'll do it with you. We'll just see if we can allow our thoughts to slow to the extent that that gap gets so big that we're simply looking at a blank screen. Here we go, another 60 seconds. Here we go. So if you could just allow the credits to roll up on the screen and allow yourself to get up and out of the auditorium, and by all means thank anyone you meet on your way out. Thank the usher, thank the concession stand staff member, thank the ticket seller, and let yourself out on the street and come back to clock time, come back to this room. You can wiggle your fingers, you can wiggle your toes, you can come back quick, you can come back slow. There's no rush here. And there's probably a few people who, when I said allow all your thoughts to come, their minds went completely blank. That's a very useful sort of little piece of reverse psychology that you've got going on there. Actually, you can use that getting started in meditation. You can say to yourself, right, I'm going to sit down now, I'm going to have all my thoughts, and just literally your mind will go blank, and you can use that to be in a very sort of calm, still state, and that will be very helpful to you. That exercise doesn't help everyone, but the more you do these kinds of things, the more you see that your thoughts are somewhat abstract from yourself, and they don't need necessarily to define you, and that's really the key point. So because we're somewhat pressed for time, and I'm conscious that I said to you that the first lesson would be 45 minutes, we are going to run over just a little bit. What I'm going to do is go straight into the final practice. Now, if you go to a mindfulness class anywhere in the world, you'll come across this practice. This is the go-to mindfulness practice. It's called the body scan. My version is very slightly different. We're going to just dissolve the pieces of our body so we slowly become invisible. We're going to leave an outline behind, so you'll still have some sort of presence, but it just makes it perhaps a little bit more fun and a little bit more interesting, and it might help you out. If you don't want to dissolve for any reason, you just simply hold your attention in each of the parts of the body that I mentioned, and then allow yourself to move on. So let's just get into that position that we get into when we meditate now. We pretty much know what that is. You get your hands and put them on your thighs, and get your feet and put them flat on the floor like that. Again, if your back's okay, allow your back to come off the back of the seat so you can't actually keel over and fall asleep. And again, you can meditate with your eyes open, but allow your eyes to close down so you can use that act in itself to bring yourself inside somewhat. And again, breathe in through your nose. And again, allow your breathing to do its thing. Allow your breathing to regulate. Allow your breathing to slow. Allow your breathing to deepen. And allow your breathing to lengthen. And again, just check in with those points of contact. The feet on the floor and the hands on the thighs and your bum on the seat. And the air swirling around your arms, and the way your arms just sort of dangle like they do, the way your head just sort of stands up like it does. And this time, why don't you check in with the parts of your body that you know to be tense? I always seem to have a little tension on the right side of my neck, so I willfully and deliberately go to the right side of my neck and relax that piece of my body. Lots of people hold tension in their shoulders, so perhaps willfully and deliberately relax your shoulders. And again, lots of people hold tension in their hips, in their pelvis, so again, willfully and deliberately relax your hips and your pelvis. And you wouldn't believe, in fact, how many people hold tension in their tongue. The simple act of dropping your tongue in your mouth can actually release a lot of tension, so perhaps try that. And when you're ready, when you feel comfortable to move on, when you feel relaxed, allow all of your awareness and all of your attention to go to the tips of your toes, to the tops of your feet, to the rest of your toes, to the soles of your feet, to your heels, and to your ankles. And when you breathe in, just use a little piece of imagination to see your breathing come all the way down through your body. Imagine it passing by your hips, passing by your knees, and passing right into your feet and your toes and your ankles and your heels. And take a nice, long, slow, deep breath and really fill up every single particle of your feet, your toes, your ankles, and your heels. And when you breathe out, just allow your feet, your toes, your ankles, and your heels just to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, don't let me rush you, by the way, and don't let me hold you back. I'd like you to take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your shins, your calves, and your knees. And as with all of these parts of the body, and as with mindfulness in general, always look at these things with the beginner's mind, with a child's eye, like you're looking at them for the first time. Everything inside, everything outside. Cartilage, bones, muscles, tendons, skin, everything. And as you breathe in, take a nice, long, slow, deep breath and really fill up every particle of your shins and your calves and your knees, inside and outside, with air. And as you breathe out, just allow your shins, your calves, and your knees to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your thighs and your hips and your pelvis. And when you breathe in, do the same exact thing. Don't worry, by the way, if some parts of your body are more stubborn than others. It's completely normal. Just allow the air to flow through them or around them. It really doesn't matter. So when you're ready, take a nice, long, slow, deep breath and fill up every single particle of your thighs, your hips, and your pelvis with air. And as you breathe out, just watch. Just watch and let it all completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you're ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention, all of your awareness to your abdomen and to your chest. Everything inside and everything outside. Your lungs, your heart, your ribs, the vertebra in your back, your kidneys, your liver, intestines, everything. And take a nice, long, slow, deep breath and allow your whole entire abdomen and whole entire chest to completely fill up with air, every single particle. And as you breathe out, allow your whole entire abdomen and your whole entire chest to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your fingers, your hands, and your wrists. And when you breathe in, do the same exact thing. Just use a little particle of imagination and watch the air flowing down our arms, past our elbows, and really filling up every single particle of our hands, our fingers, fingertips, and our wrists. And as we breathe out, we'll just allow our whole entire hands and wrists and fingers and fingertips to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your lower arms, your elbows, your upper arms, your shoulders, and your neck. And when you breathe in, we'll do the same exact thing. Allow your breath to completely fill up every single particle of your lower arms, your elbows, your upper arms, your shoulders, and your neck. And when you breathe out, just allow your whole entire arms, your shoulders, and your neck to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And let's just take a brief moment just to allow us to breathe in from the top of the neck all the way down to the tips of the fingers and the tips of the toes and everything in between, completely filling everything up with air, every single particle. And when we breathe out, just let it all completely go. Let it all completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your eyes, your forehead, your cheeks, your chin, your lips, your nose, your whole entire face, in fact. And when you breathe in, fill your whole entire face up with air, every single particle. And when you breathe out, just watch. Just allow your whole entire face to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention, all of your awareness to the back of your head, the top of your head, the sides of your head, your ears, and your jaw. And when you breathe in, allow your whole entire head to fill up, every single particle, completely fill up with air, nice and slowly. And when you breathe out, allow your whole entire head to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And we're just going to take another really brief 60-second pause, just to allow you to enjoy the sensation of the whole body breathing. You can use a particle of imagination and a little particle of science, perhaps. The science is that we all know that our skin breathes, and just use that and extend it a little bit and see if you can just picture your whole entire body breathing in really slowly and your whole entire body breathing out really slowly. And you can use this time also to breathe in and out to your partially dissolved body or to your entirely dissolved body, or you can even use the time, if you like, to work on any parts of the body that were more stubborn than others. It really doesn't matter. So here we go. I'll do it with you and do another 60-second pause. Just enjoy that sensation. Here we go. So before you come back to clock time, just in your mind's eye, just literally thank yourself for what you just did. It's actually very rare in our busy lives that we get a moment to spend there with our minds and our bodies in the same place at the same time. So just allow yourself to come back, but just give yourself a little thank you there. And so let yourself come back to clock time. You can wiggle your fingers, you can wiggle your toes, you can come back quick, you can come back slow. There's really no rush here at all. And I think just to say that perhaps during the course of this webinar, you probably found one particular practice that resonated with you most. And what I'd like to do is try and encourage you to do daily practice. The object of the first lesson is really to start the process of you doing something every day. Now, that's 5 days a week, by the way, or 6 days a week. 7 days a week is overkill, really, as far as I'm concerned. And it really needn't be that much. You start with maybe 4 minutes twice a day. That's a very good place to start. And in fact, if I can help to encourage that with you, what I'd like you to do is when you go home tonight, set your alarm clock 4 minutes earlier than you usually would. Just 4 minutes earlier. So your whole entire morning schedule will be running 4 minutes earlier than it usually would. So just before you leave the house, just when you get to the front door, just remember that. Remember you've got this 4 minute gap, this 4 minute space. Close the front door, take your coat off, take your bag off. If you've got kids, literally lock yourself in the toilet. That's genuine advice, lock yourself in the toilet. And set the timer on your iPhone or your Droid or your BlackBerry or whatever for 4 minutes. And just sit down and see if you can come to your breathing. See if you can focus on your breathing just for a few minutes in the morning. See if you can try that maybe once, maybe twice a day for the next 5 or 6 days. That's a really great way to get things started. Now, as I said, I'm going to respond to all the questions that came in an email to you guys. Keep the questions coming. You can email me. I'm very easy to contact. And I'm very excited and very humbled to be here teaching you today. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you again next week when we will be indulging in the resilience module, which is all about emotional homeostasis and cortisol and all that stuff. But to give yourself the best chance of really kicking into this, see if you can commit to doing a little bit of daily practice once a day between now and then. Okay, so once again, thank you very much for showing up. Thank you very much for allowing me to be somewhat of your teacher today. And again, don't feel shy. Do please feel free to contact me or Malcolm anytime, and we'll help you with whatever we can. Okay, so cheerio. Nice to see you all, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.